Once again, the three basic energy systems, you can see them here, the three ATP, PC, CR, phosphocreatine, glycolysis, glycolytic, sometimes called, and the oxidative. Now, the ATP PC has probably, it's used in short, high intensity. It's very quick. It could maybe last for a duration up to 3 to 15 seconds. You may see 3 to 5 published, up to 10, 12 to 15, but really you enhance this by building up your phosphocreatine storage either through natural nutritionary dietary consumption or even the supplement of creatine. Once again, you see this key enzyme right here, this creatine kinase, which is very active during the process of this. And this figure 2.5 just shows a kind of a visual of what happens. The phosphocreatine is split, yielding energy to, once again, put back together the ATP that has already been split and yielding energy for muscle contraction. When ATP is split, it yields ADP and a loose phosphate out here. And so this phosphocreatine yields energy when it's split to put the ATP together. This is the high intensity, quick energy system. I like this this graph here, figure 2.6 from your book. It kind of illustrates here, you have time on the horizontal in seconds, and you have percent of resting value. And you can see, once again, here's the ATP, and here's the phosphocreatine. You can see that after, 12 seconds, 14 seconds, the phosphocreatine system is pretty well exhausted, as well as ATP from this system. Our second anaerobic system is the glycolysis system, or sometimes called glycolytic. Again, it makes about 2 to 3 moles or 2 to 3 ATP per mole of substrate. And whereas I failed to mention this, the ATP PC makes about 0.9, a little less than 1 ATP per mole. Duration of this one might be anywhere from lasting from 15 seconds to beyond that ATP PC, maybe even up to 2 to 3 minutes. And the breakdown of this glucose is called glycolysis. Here you see a kind of a list of pros and cons of this system. Now, this system is a anaerobic system, and one of the, I guess, the biggest negative here is that it does produce a byproduct of lactic acid. This lactic acid, as you know, is what gets in our bloodstream, changes the pH level to be lower, makes our body more acidic, and we just generally know it's a problem with intensity of exercise. It produces a lot of hydrogen ions, and we have to essentially lower the intensity or stop. Something has to change eventually. As I said earlier, each system has a key enzyme, and phosphofructokinase and hexokinase are some of those that are very active in this glycolytic system. Now, the aerobic system, or sometimes as it's called oxidative system, has the largest yield of ATP of any of these. You can see the numbers there. And this system can be used for long durations of time, probably for several hours. This is our default energy system that we're always in because it operates at a lower intensity, and as we need more energy at a faster rate than the oxidative system can supply, we go recruit additional help from glycolysis and the ATP PC. Now, carbohydrates is that special fuel, the body's preferred energy source, because it can be actually broken down in glycolysis and the Krebs cycle, which is the next stage below that in the breakdown, which is oxidative, and the electron transport chain, which is a key element of that oxidation of carbohydrates. The key product that we want out of this electron transport chain is the hydrogen electrons. And these carry a positive charge, which are going to be essential in kind of putting back together the ATP that has been split. It's sitting there in a chemical form, as we saw earlier, ADP plus 1 loose phosphate. Now, when it's kicked out of the Krebs cycle, as we say, the hydrogen electrons are picked up by cytochromes, which are carriers, which are specifically, these are the NADH and FADH, and they're carried much like you would say a truck traveling down a road. They're carried down this electron pathway, this electron transport chain, this pathway where they're going to come in the presence of the of these broken ATP to reassemble them. As I said earlier, one of the things about the fats is that they're actually slow to make ATP because they have to go through an additional step called beta oxidation before they can actually enter the Krebs cycle, becoming acetyl-CoA. And you can see the numbers there. They yield 3 to 4 times more ATP than glucose, but they're very slow in getting this done. And finally, the story on protein, as we said, it's not used a great deal as an energy substrate. It really comes into play, it's about a 1% or less most of the time when you have adequate levels of carbohydrate and fats present, especially carbohydrates. When carbohydrates become depleted, which is usually going to be at least after probably 2 hours or more of continuous steady-state exercise, then the fats kick in more, and then that's when you see the protein supplementing them and probably making their greatest contribution, maybe at a rate of 5 to 10% of the total energy, maybe as high as 20%, depending on what state you're in. I like this one slide right here because I think this figure 2.12 in your book is a good overview of several of these energy systems at work. Here, what you see, and you see the ATP-PC out here, kind of a standalone system by itself, and you see glycolysis working together, forming pyruvate, some lactic acid, forming acetyl-CoA, and right on down into the Krebs cycle. And these two you should think of as sort of blending together, and the ATP-PC, the phosphocreatine system, is kind of its own maverick, its own horse out here, and it does work together with each of these, but it's kind of a standalone. It doesn't blend together in its energy, if you will, breakdown processes in any way.